This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, building a business case and gaining executive support for your ERP upgrade.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Building a Business Case and Gaining Executive Support for Your ERP Upgrade. Our presentation today will cover the following learning objectives. We will review key issues that derail an ERP migration. We will learn best practices for gaining consensus across all business stakeholders, understand how to identify what you really need to accomplish from your ERP upgrade project, and demonstrate how to perform cost-benefit analysis to determine the actual case for new ERP. Today's presentation is valid for 1 CPE credit. In order to receive CPE credit, each attendee is required to attend the full 50-minute presentation, as well as engage and answer all the poll questions asked throughout the presentation. If you are needing CPE credit for today's presentation, please leave your name in this chat of this Zoom or send an email to julia@erpadvisorsgroup.com for record, and you will be issued a certificate for the CPE. That email should be in the chat. At the end of today's presentation, there will be a short question and answer period. If you have any questions for our presenter, please add it to the chat section of this Zoom. Sean Windle is our presenter for today. Sean is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Sean has worked in the enterprise software industry for over 20 years. He started his career at Accenture and Arthur Andersen Business Consulting and moved into the software industry with Oracle as a technology product manager. There are only a few people in the world with the practical software experience that Sean has gained with helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. Sean, if you are ready, I will pass this over to you.
Great. Let's jump into our CPE today. So as Rebecca mentioned, I'm with ERP Advisors Group, and we truly are one of the few organizations that is independent objective around enterprise software. We don't get cuts, referrals, commissions from anybody except for our clients who pay us. And our goal is really to help organizations figure out what they really should do for software, as well as if there is sort of the pain points and all those things, that building a business case for how to get there. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm pretty stoked. Let's do it. So for our next slide, which my clicker is not going to, I don't think, or maybe I went to a little too far there. Let's go to the why ERP upgrades really fail. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to rip apart the cover here. We're going to go underneath like all of the social veneer of ERP and enterprise software. And we're just going to go right into it. So these projects are tough. And my guess is that's why you're listening to this now, or you're going to pick this up as a podcast later, because you kind of know ERP upgrades are a challenge and sometimes they don't go well. Unfortunately, those sometimes are a lot of the times. So we spent a lot of time over the years really digging into the real whys. It's the 5 whys, if you're familiar with some of the lean manufacturing and Six Sigma techniques. And when we really dig into kind of the commonly provided reasons, and then we go a little bit further and figure out what's really underneath all this, or there's another book that we do called Question Behind the Question that's really helpful. This is what we found. So, oh my gosh, the executives didn't support the project. That's why the project didn't work. Well, why didn't they support the project? Oh, because they didn't understand it. Well, why didn't they understand? Because they didn't spend the time with it. Well, why didn't they spend the time with it? Well, because they were busy. Well, why were they too busy to talk about this? Because they were afraid. That's the real reason. People freak out when you talk about ERP. One of my guys and I were on site yesterday talking to a prospective client. And, they should be afraid, right? That's actually a really good thing, because you realize that there are a lot of risks here, and you do things like education, right? And that's again, kind of the purpose of this presentation, is to educate you about what's really going on. So that fear isn't unfounded. Let's just find out what the risks are, and then we can mitigate them. So that's a big one. This next point about reasons why projects fail, even before they start, basically before you start implementation, is because we didn't justify the cost, or we didn't estimate the cost. We're going to talk a lot about this in the next 50 minutes here, about costs and estimates and all that kind of stuff. But it's important that you really understand what those costs are and that they're justifiable. So, we should buy a new machine, or we should buy, for the manufacturing floor, or a new coffee machine like we did, which Will has a Jura espresso right now. I can smell it. God, that stuff is so good. Anyway, yeah, you work with ERP advisors, you get Jura coffees. I love it. Anyway, but you buy a new machine. That coffee machine probably was one of the best investments we've made for our people ever, come to think of it. But that's also because we have phenomenal enterprise systems, frankly. But it's a good example, right? You want to buy other capital projects, invest in other capital projects. But ERP is a capital project, right? And so the cost, we don't want to spend the money there. We want to put it into something more industrial, bigger. Well, the ERP can actually save all of your people time, and it can make such a huge difference. You can actually justify that through cost benefit analysis that we're going to talk about here. A couple other things on this slide. Other commonly provided reasons on why a project failed is the users didn't take time to test. Oh man, have we heard that before? And we have experienced it before. And the real reason is they are just too busy to do their day jobs. We have another go live that's happening right now, and there's a certain class of users. So if my team is listening to this and they're on that project, they know exactly who I'm talking about, where we had a group of people during the implementation that we knew they needed to test the heck out of the app. We gave them scripts. We made sure all the setup was there, and like, oh, we're too busy. We're too busy. Well, guess what happens then? Go live becomes UAT, right? So that's always a little scary. It's like, yeah, we're not sure if the car works. Go drive it on the freeway 90 miles an hour or 75 miles an hour, stay in speed limits wherever you're at, and we'll see if the tires stay on or not. Oh, how's that going to work, right? So people are busy for sure during a project, but we really do have to make time for testing. And other things, right? Another big thing is we had another implementation recently where we had a lot of training to do. And this is a funny, real reason. Um, yeah, yeah. Basically, this was a really interesting case where we had a very diverse user base with lots of different kinds of needs, all kinds of stuff. And, the training team from the implementation partner said, we'll be fine. We kind of said, yeah, sure. Like maybe we should do a little more. And maybe we should have even asked those questions to the next level, frankly. But the key thing was that we said, okay, let's go for it. And then there were some training issues at Go Live. So my team and me all went on site and fixed it. But, sometimes that trainer who's suggesting a training plan, they don't really understand everything. They understand how to do the training, but they might not understand the actual people that are getting the training. And they might just look at a canned training approach. This is what works for everybody. Well, that might not be what works for you. So, have them really look at what you need and understand what you need to do. And, and if they're just a terrible trainer and nobody understands them, fire them, get them out of the way. I hate to say that, but it's kind of true. Another common provider reason why a project fails is no change management, which isn't just training. There's a lot more to change management. And I've seen this over and over and over in my career where the technical people, everybody's just so busy. They're working on the product, they're doing the data, and they kind of forget about the people. Don't forget about the people, because ultimately that's who the system's for, at least for now. Maybe you have a lot of AI bots running around, but I don't think we're quite to that point yet. You can listen to our work on AI there, how AI is going to impact the office of the CFO. And guess what? You're not going to just have AI bots. You're still going to have the peeps running around doing stuff. And that's ultimately who the systems are. So make sure you're paying attention to them. A couple other reasons here. So, let's say before you do all the planning, you got a good project, implementation goes well, and then everything blows up at go live. The app doesn't work. One of my earliest projects with the last firm I was with, the first project was to go in and assess what happened on a failed upgrade, a failed go live. And they kind of selected the wrong app. So that wasn't very good. And that does happen for sure. Or all these functions didn't work. Well, we didn't communicate the problem earlier. Like we didn't say, this is what I need. The end users didn't say this is what I have to have work, but nobody didn't tell anybody, right? And then another major commonly provided reason for a failed upgrade is way over budget. And I'll tell you, the thing that we often see there is it's not what you think would drive an over budget. It's that you have great implementation resources that really want to meet all of the client's needs, not just the ones in scope, but the needs that are outside of scope, and they do it anyway. And they start building, and all of a sudden they've spent $1 million of time and they want to get paid on it. And like, well, wait a minute, that's out of scope. Yeah, but we did it because your users said, well, the users didn't ask for the money to do it. So, there's what is that? 6, 7, 8 common reasons. There's some of the background on the why. And I think the big thing I want you to understand here is that you really do have to ask the 5 whys. You have to ask the question behind the question before you just say, hey, the project failed. And I think we're really going to spend a lot of time on this executive buy-in and business case for this discussion. And that really sets the stage for the project to be successful going forward. So if we go to our next slide here, what are some of the issues that derail an ERP migration? We talked about a lot of them at a high level there, but ultimately it comes down to a couple things, right? A lot of times companies get into this and they really don't understand what they need. They think they need a new accounting system, and so they go buy a whole ERP that has a whole bunch of stuff in it, right? Or they need a whole new ERP and they only buy one piece of it. So they get the selection wrong. I'm in this industry and my colleagues bought this, they've implemented that, and it's going to work for me. Well, but your colleague has a little bit different needs. They're bigger, they're smaller, they're more complex, they're more simple. So, a lot of times we do find that organizations do just pick the wrong software, but not just the wrong software, but also the wrong implementation team. So these are the people that are actually doing the configuration. And they really don't understand what you need, and some of them really don't care. There are some vendors that are out there that are just kind of, like rubber stamping an implementation. It's like the old assembly line with Lucy. That's dating me a little bit. Lucy, Arnez. What was her name? Lucille Ball was her name, but from the I Love Lucy show at the factory line, the assembly line. Such a silly example. But they just they just start doing the implementation and they do it. But wait a minute, we actually are a food producer, not a distributor, and you just implement it for a distributor. Like, oh my gosh, they didn't even understand what we needed. And then that's sort of more, I think, on the client side and the implementation partner side, the software vendor side, but definitely on the client side, we run into this sometimes too, where just the client's just not prepared, right? They haven't thought through all the aspects, and unfortunately, the project is sort of doomed to fail before it even gets off the ground. So that's why we have Super Sean over here on the right. Thank you, marketing team. Love you guys. Don't start an ERP migration until you've done all your homework. And so then with that said, let me ask you a question here. So question 1, which of the following factors can derail your ERP migration? So lack of employee buy-in, lack of resources to complete the project, selected the wrong solution due to a lack of understanding of needs, or all of the above. So if you need CPE credit, please do answer the question to make sure that I haven't put you to sleep already. We'll give it just a couple seconds there, maybe 30 seconds to respond. And then the team will show us what the right answer is. Please, if you're on this call and you're looking at this question, please get this one right. There's other reasons that come into play here, but at least have these set. So the correct answer is, okay, 10 more seconds here to get some more responses. I think, unfortunately, I've dealt with all of these, and it's a little spooky, especially that first one. Like, holy cow, when you go live and the employees are like, I ain't going to use this. And you're like, whoa, what did we just do? All right. So the answer to this is D, all of the above. So hopefully you got that one right for sure. Keep that in mind. So as we go to the next slide, Yeah, if I haven't scared you away so far, let's talk about what you can do about gaining consensus across all business stakeholders, right? So if we break down just that one point of getting users and key users at the top and users all the way through the organization, it's absolutely vital. So a really simple strategy or best practice that we certainly use on all of our projects is, and we recommend even if you're a DIYer, DIY ERP, DWRP, you're a yeah, do a DIRP. It's like something in a museum, like here's the diatribe of the DIRP implementing their ERP. Um, that's right. That's true. It's good. But if you're doing it on your own, you're doing it with consultants, whatever, just make sure you're talking to subject matter experts across the entire organization. And you want them to tell you what the pain points are with the current software. Now, there's obvious things here on why we do this, but maybe it's a little bit less obvious. And the more I talk to folks that are looking at doing these projects, the more I kind of realize they might not see the why behind all this. Of course, you want to determine what their pain points are if you're going to be leading this effort so that you can make sure that the solution that you recommend does meet those pain points. But the other piece of this is you want them to understand they're in pain. And it's a bit like, well, my wife tells me not to use those analogies of dating, but I'll save that one for a little bit later. But it's like you're in pain today, right? Now, when you go through an implementation, you're going to go through a little more pain, but ultimately it's going to be better. And if you don't realize that you're in need of improvement, if the key stakeholders, the department leads don't really understand that they need to change, right? And that they're ready for improvement, it's tough to move forward on an ERP project, to be totally honest with you. You really need people to be at that point of awareness in order to then go into, okay, what's the solution? And you can always ask people to submit their issues with the current system. You can send out surveys if you want to do that, and fill that out. I mean, we find it super helpful to even just spend an hour with each of the department heads to just let them talk. And then also you get to know them a little bit more. You get in communication and reality starts to kick in. And they're like, hey, you're going to help. This is great. I'm not going to tar and feather you later when it's really hard. And then they'll also give you a view into issues that are needing to be solved, right? And you might not have that view. You might not realize what's going on down in purchasing or what the factory floor is really running into, or even what your professional services resources are really confronting and having to deal with every day when they're into their time. And it's a nightmare. And do know, you don't need to solve every concern, right? And some of them might not even be software related, but it does give you a starting point, and you can sift out. I mean, we have all kinds of tools around this internally, but we look at strategy, people, process, and technology, right? That's sort of left over from our big four days, but you could have problems or pain points across all four of those. But the systems problems are the ones we're going to focus on, the technology problems, even some of the business process problems. Oh, we manually do this and we swivel chair that, we enter in this system, then we enter in that system. That's what swivel chair means. Those are also related to systematic issues. So you want to capture those. And again, it's the dialogue with these subject matter experts, or SMEs. Now, I think our friends on the East Coast call them SMEs, but I like SMEs in the West Coast. But you want these people to tell you what's happening, and I'll tell you, that's like 3/4 of the effort right there. So when we go on to our next slide here, the other thing too, as part of sort of these best practices, is you do want to put together a cost benefit analysis. And this is pretty important, because you want to talk about costs, right? And I think across the board with every organization I have ever worked with, and this is like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds now, according to Grok. You can Grok me and see what it says. It's pretty interesting, actually. I was like, oh my God, what does Grok know about me? This is the AI tool on X. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. It's like, we hire this guy when you need real help and you want to get a great system or whatever. It's all stuff that we have on our website. So I was like, great, thank you. But But it's really true though that you will see that everybody wants to know costs. Cost. How much is it going to cost me? Da 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 da. Okay, yeah, and that's important, right? But that's like one side of the equation. What's the other side? Benefits, right? And you want the benefits to be more than the costs, like the little scale shows, like perfect graphic there. We should put benefits, we should put costs down here. And there will be very specific business benefits that you will get from implementing a new modern ERP with automation, integration, reports, analysis, all this stuff that's sort of in the app already. And then you can even take it in multiple phases and make it more and more your own. And you should try to figure out, what those benefits are on a monetary basis. That's not easy. But, maybe if we can reduce inventory costs because we have better planning capability, well, that's cash that was tied up in inventory that now is available for other investments, right? So you might even have some other kinds of impact to the business. It's not just reduce cost. You might be able to increase revenue, right? Inevitably, with most professional services firms, if they get the right systems in place, that makes time entry easier, makes allocations and resource management easier. We can, have our people do a little bit more. The more people you have, then you pay for the app, right? It covers those kinds of costs. So there's ways that you can do that cost benefit analysis. And we're going to talk about some of the tools that we used in more detail here to help figure that out. So next question. True or false? A cost benefit analysis will be vital to gaining executive support. True or false? So answer that question, please. And while you're thinking about it, I will guarantee you on every project, the cost benefit analysis happens, whether it's formal or informal. And there's many degrees of formality, right? When we work with the top private equity companies with their portfolio companies, and they want like really detailed discounted cash flows over 10 years, internal rate of returns that meet a certain amount, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's great, right? Although there's a certain point where you're wagging too much, wild, whatever guess. But that's helpful, right? All the way to the owner just goes, oh my gosh, we've been running the same app for 15 years. And the guy who wrote it kind of wants to retire, doesn't even want to work here anymore. And he doesn't really even know what all the rest of the apps are, what's going on. And like my entire business is relying on this. And my family, family run business is depending upon me to run this business with. I don't even know what's going on with our profitability unless I have a system. And wow. I think you just did your cost benefit analysis right there, right? So it can be pretty obvious too. You don't have to do it in that much detail. So the answer to this question is true. Good. All right. So as we talk about the business case, as we talk about the benefits, we talk about the costs, we also need to understand where software requirements fit in to an ERP upgrade, right? And when we talk about needs, especially, this is a really, really important discussion for you to understand, because a lot of people do this wrong. And when you do this wrong from the beginning, you are hosed. I'll just say that. Do not collect your detailed requirements at the beginning. When you're doing your needs analysis, just stay high level, man. Don't go into the details, not yet. There's plenty of time for that. And unfortunately, well, I'll say it this way. Hopefully there's other ERP advisory consultants out there, not just my people, because they know better, but our competitors who listen to these, right? Or professional services firms that are implementing this, who also listen to these, and the single shingle folks out there that are, implementing around the world and helping companies with ERP. Do not go do a bunch of detailed requirements because you get lost. I mean, it's the forest through the trees, right? It's like, okay, how rough does the bark have to be? No. How many acres are we talking about, right? What types of trees are we interested in? What shades of green do we want? Do we want colors in the fall? Blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a silly analogy, but it's kind of true. We want you to understand your high-level needs basically by functional area of the business or nonprofit or government agency, right? And you can see here in this example on the left-hand side, it's a pretty complex business. Most of our product-based businesses are like this, where they're not just a manufacturer, they're not just a wholesale distributor, they're not just a field services firm. They're all that, right? And then with those functional areas, you can drill down one more level and that's it for now. That's it. Don't go any deeper. And the reason why I say that is because now as you look at the rest of this diagram, there are so many different types of solutions out there, right? So now at this high level sort of a application ecosystem there, the functional area, you can sort of look at in business process ecosystem, I should say, because then we have other diagrams that connect all these and super simple stuff. But then you can start looking in the market and saying, oh, wow, we could just get one app that does everything. Yeah, good luck with that. That's going to be big. It's going to be expensive. Or we should just buy a whole bunch of apps that do all the individual things. That's a lot of integrations. That's a lot of throats to choke if there's a problem. Or hint, hint, we can go with some hybrid solutions that hopefully offer most of what we need. Maybe there's one or two areas that they don't because they don't focus in that. And that's what we call hybrid solutions. So 9 times out of 10, we're recommending the hybrids to our clients. But I'll tell you, there are instances where we have clients that go through these cycles where they're like, oh, we love best of breed. Oh, we want an all-in-one. Oh, we love best of breed. Oh, there's reasons why you do all that stuff, but you'll never get to the solution type evaluation if you're looking at just requirements. You have to stay high level to start with. And of course, CPQ, configure price quote. We need to sort of say what are our high level requirements, right? And if it's really complex, contracting coming out of the system, or it's simple contracts, those are things that you would want to put in there as a high level requirement just for that one area. So, yeah, go ahead. It is pretty interesting when you really do understand where software requirements fit in. In what we see that's out there, we have a lot of people that say, what happens if you're unaware of your software needs and try to confront an ERP upgrade? Like, shouldn't I go detailed? Like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I'm telling you guys, like, I would say 9 out of 10 of the conversations that we have with prospective folks that are looking at software, they really don't know what they need. So you will, because you're doing this CPE, which is fantastic. But if you really don't know what you need and you go through this process and you start talking to the vendors, especially, you'll fail. Like you just fail because you'll select the wrong solution, right? Or one that doesn't quite match your needs. And the other risks are you're vulnerable for purchasing solutions and everything else that you don't need, because it's not just the software, it's third-party solutions, it's integrations, it's upgraded applications, maybe existing stuff that you have. And it's just a huge waste of time and resources. And I mean, that's why we do these CPE for free. We always do a free consult with folks so that we can just say, look, don't waste your time. I mean, we did one this morning. We're hoping for that Google review, but you can also send us last crumb cookies, lastcrumb.com. And I mean that. I love those cookies. I usually I take them home. I put them in my freezer. I don't share them with anybody. No, if they come to the office, 390 Union, we're sharing them. I promise, guys. Yes, that's right. We're going to talk to Last Crumb sponsor, powered by Last Crumb. They're very expensive cookies, but they're worth it. Anyway, so sorry that they didn't pay us for that. But what I'm trying to say here is you just start going down, a rabbit hole, we'll say, and you just keep going down, 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 down if you don't really know what you need, right? We're talking to one company right now. And they talked to some vendors, they got super confused. They found us and they're like, wow. And then we've already met with them. We've reviewed their high level needs, although we understand them at a super detailed level. And we're coming back to them saying, here's kind of what we foresee your needs to be. And they're like, wow, I had no idea. Right. And that's huge. So definitely you want to get in through that. So let's go to question 3. In what ways does knowing your needs help you prepare for an upgrade? So A, you can manage the trajectory of the project, right? You can see it kind of going this way when you know what you need. You can tentatively prepare for costs. You're not going to get specific costs at the get-go, right? They're tentative numbers. Or C, you will immediately know exactly what product to select. So then D is both A and B. E is all of the above. My teams, they're so tricky. So it is pretty interesting. I like that phrase, manage the trajectory of the project, because I mean that's oftentimes what the executive sponsor, project sponsor for sure has to do, is manage and predict where the project is going. And you kind of need to know if you're heading in the right direction or you're heading in the wrong direction. So if you know that you need, a new CRM, and the CRM implementation partners are delayed, guess what? Good. So the answer to this one is D, both A and B. And I'm telling you that it's such a misconception of selections that people think they get into this, and that, okay, we just had another meeting yesterday where the prospect said, okay, so like, what are the solutions? Or, oh, you got to go through all this to figure out the solutions. And I said, no, here's the 4 solutions that are going to work for you. He was like, why are you here? Why are you saying that I should do something more? And we had to go through a little bit more for him to say, oh, this is really more to help us get our stuff together and make sure we know what we need and make sure that the vendor knows what we need. And then the software kind of doesn't matter. It's like, yes. Now, of course, the software will make a huge difference. There's tons of factors that go into it. But again, you get it. I think it's enough said about needs. So let's move on. Now, we'll go into a little bit more detail here on sort of how do you conduct a cost benefit analysis. So when we're talking about, like, what do you include in a CBA, you may hear that phrase, right? You really do, again, want to look across all the areas of the business that'll be impacted by the new software. By now, in this presentation, at least, I have beat it into your head, hopefully. And I mean that, like, find out what you need. Oh, I know what I need. Okay, well, is HR payroll in? Well, no, we're fine with whoever, even though they don't support us and they do a crappy job. And like another client of ours recently, the system often fails, and sometimes we don't get payroll out on time. Wait, what? Okay, you're not getting great reports out of your financials. I get that, but you mean, oh well, no, I mean, we always get the checks out on time. It's just that the system goes down and we do a bunch of stuff manually. Wait, what? We really need to focus on HR payroll, right? So be willing to look across the whole organization is what I'm trying to say there, right? And you have to look at can the issues be fixed with new software? Like in that case, the app was dying. It was like X's across the the music would play. I'm sorry, I'm unavailable to help you pay your employees now. Yeah, one day we'll have that. I promise. I promise, Will. I promise, Rebecca. Our applications will talk to us like that. Rebecca, you're pushing the wrong button. Wouldn't that be cool if it like interacted like that? Until then, you just freak out because you have no idea what really happened there. But sometimes, you can breathe life into these applications. We have a client right now that's engaged us to look at new software. Their existing app keeps going down. We found a partner that focuses on their existing app, and we're like, please help us. Please help this client. We'll help you to help other clients, but please help them, because we do know that there's platform issues that they keep running into that we think that they can get that fixed. Or is a different issue within the business, right? Could be a people problem. We won't talk about those. We don't have to get into all that stuff, but we've had some instances where there were some people that just didn't really want to use the app that they currently had. Well, why? Well, because they're just lazy. They're bad people, blah, blah, blah. No, that's ridiculous. I mean, maybe, but that's only a very small percentage of people. They're not trained in it. They're not really understanding the why they have to do it. Okay, we can handle that, So that's why you really want to look at it and say, okay, these are the benefits you're going to get. And you want to be conservative, right? So before we show you this crazy next slide that has a tabulation of some benefits, you really want to use conservative numbers here. Now, I will tell you that if most of our clients, if they put in the systems that we recommend and they really do have the needs, they can make a ton more in revenue by having more information about the business, better pricing, better visibility in the inventory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they can also reduce their cost of goods sold, and they can also reduce operating expenses. And you don't have to be a CPA like I am, inactive, to figure out, like you are too, by the way, on these calls, to figure out that's how you increase profit. It's very, very real that the benefits could be extreme but don't do that. Just keep them conservative. We use we call them single digit benefits. Like just look for, don't, if you're getting into double digit benefits, you've gone too far. So, 5%, 2%, even we do 1%, a 0.5%. And then build the model so you can change it, because these models are a little bit subjective. We're trying to take information and to make it more objective, to say, okay, if something simple, if we can increase our resources, our billable resources utilization by an hour a week, what do we benefit from that, right? So they can bill another hour because they're not doing silly reporting and stuff that they have to do in spreadsheets, or it's easier to enter their time, or we know where all of the resources are so we can better utilize and plan them and put them on a project sooner. You could take an hourly blended rate times one times the number of people times 52 weeks, right? Because you get that every week, and then times 3 for 3 years. Like, you could do that. That would be revenue. That is not profit. So you have to take out an operating margin out of, or excuse me, operating operating cost percentage out of that to figure out what the bottom number would be to contribute a profit. But you can see you can get there. So if you go to this next slide here, this is the crazy slide. But it's really good though, because that same organization that we showed you earlier in terms of the functional areas, we looked across all of those areas, and we said, actually, this is a different company now that I look at this, but we looked across all the areas of this business, and we said, marketing and customer service, let's decrease the cost by reducing manual marketing and customer service tasks. Now, we're not going to fire people, guys. That doesn't happen. But I think we pulled out the cost assumptions and estimates that's in that column. But what we do there is we say, okay, marketing and customer service has 10 people. And by entering a new customer service or creating a new customer service application where the data is easier to access, where they can put in a ticket, where they can find out what problems other customers have had, basic kind of like Zendesk-y kind of customer support type applications, right? You got maybe 10 people, you figure out what an hourly rate is, fully loaded, you just guess $40 an hour, that's 80,000 a year divided by 2,000, and then times 12, right? You can come up with a number here, and let's say we save them 2 hours a week. These numbers are pretty easy to really find that way. Purchasing is going to be more around reducing purchasing costs, the actual cost of purchasing, but also sometimes, I don't think we have it on this one, we're reducing costs of inventory, reduce COGS by lowering inventory carrying costs and warehouse management, logistics cost limited by eliminating manual dispatching tasks. So, notice we have soft benefits, we have hard benefits here. And we felt, to be conservative with this project, we really wanted to say, look, you're probably not going to reduce people, right? And most of our clients, that's the case. Very, very, very inoften. But there are times, especially with private equity backed portfolio companies that are buying and buying and buying more and more businesses, there are synergy costs that can be had by having systems in place. But usually the benefits come in from just being more efficient. Now, we can take these people's time that we're doing all this manual stuff, we can put them towards more value added tasks too, right? But you know what? You're running a system that's 15 years old that's not supported anymore. You got to change if you have any kind of fiduciary duty to your company. I'm just going to say. So you're going to have to look at this, and there's a cost to that, but why not try to put something together that is a benefits realization on, again, estimating what the business benefits could be here too. So you can see, guys, and I mean this, we've done this over and over and over. It takes one bullet to shoot through this, and you can lose all of your legitimacy. Well, I'm not going to fire $70,000 worth of marketing and customer service people, so why do I really get a benefit from that? That's true, but 70,000, that's 2 people that you would have hired otherwise. So, maybe we could put in and rephrase this to say we don't have to hire 2 people going forward, because the avoidance of future hires is actually a pretty significant cost savings you can get there. So anyway, a lot of things to consider on this slide. yeah, good luck with that. But you also have to look at your organization and sort of see what your culture is to figure out the benefit side. Okay. So now if we go to the next slide here, now that we've been through the benefits, you know, like a Minecraft. My son used to play a lot of Minecraft. It's not like Minecraft. It's more like walking through a lagoon. The benefits you might have a little monster that comes up and gets you when you start talking about benefits. So you have to navigate that carefully. Cost is a little bit easier, right? And we break this down into a lot of, well, not a lot, like 6 different categories of costs. And a lot of people that we talk to, this is the first time they've heard this. So listen up. The costs for software are usually best quantified by yearly costs, recurring costs, ongoing costs, whatever you want to call it, right? And then one-time costs, non-recurring costs. Simple so far. Now, another prospect said, oh, we're just going to buy software that's on-prem. It's a perpetual license. We pay for it once. And then, we have to pay maintenance every year. So why would I buy this cloud stuff? Well, where is your data center at? Well, we don't have a data center. We have a closet. Oh, okay. And how long has that closet been there? 20 years. Okay. And are there sprinklers around? Is it elevated? Do you ever have problems with the building? Yeah, it makes my stomach turn to even think about the risks that can come with on-premise software. But yes, there is more cost for cloud. There's no question about it. But a lot of times, this is why customers are going to the cloud, because when you really again, pull away all of the so many analogies I can think of. But when you look at what's true and you think about, wow, are we really able to maintain our software as well as the software vendor is? Usually the answer is no. So therefore we go cloud. Now, there are instances with regulatory and compliance and some other things that we always look at where, we don't get paid more or less. It doesn't matter about for us on whether you're doing cloud or on-prem. We just want you to do the right thing for the organization, not just for the IT director who likes to play with his apps. So he can do that over the web. So anyway, so you have yearly costs, right? So subscriptions, software subscriptions, if you do kind of a subscription-based software, those are recurring costs. They're the same every year. I know it's hard when you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars you're paying every year, but you got to think about the people that would be in place that you would have to have there that would be doing all this work, right? So it's pretty easy to justify that, frankly, but then there's yearly costs around support costs that are paid to third-party vendors on an annual basis. So you might have a vendor who comes in and just checks the app, cleans some things up for you, whatever. Then you also may have development costs where they're writing reports, they're enhancing things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a misnomer that a lot of people have that once they buy that first phase of software, they do the go live that they're done. That's not really the case, right? Your app that you were on for 30 years that you developed over 30 years, you're probably going to develop this more. So we're just saying, hey, there's some other costs. It's not just software, but there's other support costs that you're going to incur every year. Now, those are discretionary. They go up and down, and they're a fraction of what the software subscription costs are. Those are yearly costs. Then we have one-time costs. And those always consist of technical implementation costs. So that's the cost to the professional services. That's the cost to the implementation partner. Those are costs that you're going to incur from sort of the technical configuration, and it requires somebody who really knows that application to do it, right? And they're certified in it usually. And you want to make sure about that, by the way. You don't want to just buy the software from anybody. I'm amazed at how folks find some vendor online like, oh, I'm going to buy blah from blah. And I'm like, I haven't heard of them. And it's my job to know about them. So why don't I know about them? Oh, because there are 3 people in, wherever around the world. Don't buy that, right? So you really want to look into who your technical implementation team is. Then listen, there are client-side implementation costs that you are going to have to incur. Yeah, and these are external costs. The next one's internal. I'll get to that. A lot of times when our clients are going through selection and they're like, wait a minute, the implementation partner says I have to do this. I have to prepare my data. I have to run the project. I have to test. I have to train my people. I'm not in the business of doing that. My people are really busy. I need help. Okay. We help with that. That's why I started the business, was to do client side implementation services. But also, there's a reality too that, like I said, data migration, there's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of transformation that has to happen with your data. We're going to leave it all in the old system and we're just going to bring over customers, vendors. Great. Love it. You're going to have to bring over open transactions too, but you'll talk about that later. And sometimes our clients have people that can do that. Sometimes they don't. And just make sure that you have somebody that understands your data sets to do all that stuff. And then this gets to the biggest cost item on one-time costs, honestly. And it's really tricky. And that's because implementation partners, they will say, and software vendors will say, okay, here's what's required from your people. We need 20 hours from PM. We need 20 hours from a lead. We need your subject matter experts to participate 15 hours on average across the project. Well, how long is the project? Oh, it's a year. And we need a project sponsor, and we need executive sponsor, and we need some other people. And we have 6 SMEs. Whoa. We did this recently for a client. It was like 4,000 hours. So, and if everybody's cost is like, $100 an hour, that's a lot of money, right? That's actual cost, right? Now, it's a sunk cost because they're employees, they're hitting payroll expense, right? But that's cost that also goes into this. And some clients really do need to, they need to get into that level of estimation on the cost benefit analysis. Some don't. They're like, oh, our people are going to do it. They're going to be fine. Okay, well, then that's fine. But also maybe you have to backfill some people so that their day job, real job gets done while they're working on the ERP. Maybe you have to give them some bonuses because they're working a day and night job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of different costs to go into it. And let me just show you a model without freaking you out too much. This is like $100 million business, right? This isn't a huge organization, nor is it a small organization, but you can start to see where these costs really add up. So we talk about the recurring costs. We talked about the non-recurring costs. So we sort of just say, year one cost, this is what it's going to be. Now it might be a 14-month project, right? To go from beginning to end. So we just kind of call it year one, because then we can estimate, okay, what's the year 2 recurring and what's the year 3 recurring to come up with over 3 years of what the costs are. So this model sort of does that. It's based on a bunch of spreadsheets that are very flexible. And you can see we have assumptions built in, like annual support and ongoing development costs are 10% of the software costs. So we have these different types of solutions listed here that I talked about earlier. And then you can see these estimates are sort of drawn from software costs are 313,000 for single enterprise solution, technical implementation services, $938,000 dollars. That's a 1-to-3 ratio. I'm pretty good with math. I think that's how that, yeah. Although 3 times 313 is not 938, but this is all rounded and everything in the model. Whereas a hybrid solution is more like a 1-to-1 ratio. So, when you're implementing these different types of solutions, the software cost itself might be pretty competitive. Like if you look at that software cost for a single enterprise solution, say SAP, Oracle, Cloud Fusion, maybe some of the big Infor products, whatever, they're really about the same cost on an annual basis of some of the smaller solutions, but it's the implementation cost that's different. But you're getting a bigger app, et cetera, et cetera. It takes more to do that. And then we're looking at the non-recurring costs that I talked about before. So, the project costs can get up here high, and this might be why a lot of the folks that you're talking to, mostly the salespeople, don't get into all these other costs because they may feel like you might not do the project if you know what all these costs are. I understand that. I really do. Especially if you just got to do it anyway, right? Our approach is, I hope yours is, if you made it this far into my presentation, first off, incredible. But now put these in the model. Think about what these costs are, just so you have a good idea there. Good. So I think this is our final question here. And I think I think we have 2 more questions. Or no, 1 more question is summary, and we'll wrap it up. And I think we have a couple questions we'll go through too. True or false? A cost benefit analysis will assist you in confirming your need for a new ERP. We'll see what the answer to that is. And I don't care if you do it on the back of a napkin, do the cost benefit analysis. Do not start talking to a bunch of vendors and select something without at least having some of this laid out. Because when you do, you will be a leg up for sure in terms of having a more successful project. So the answer here, if we got all of our responses, is true. Good. All right. So let's wrap this up and then we can take a few questions. Please, every single one of these, I'm going to say it just like that. Please know the real potential issues and learn to spot them during your implementation. Find what the real causes of these things are and know, even before, during, after, like find out what's really going on and handle that. Oh, we didn't test. Why didn't you test? Well, because we're too busy. Well, why are you too busy? Because we didn't really get trained well. And we don't want to take the time to do the testing. Okay, well, let's sit down to training. Oh, I'm too busy. Okay, go to the boss. Like, if you want to do this, you can handle the real issue. The real issue is always, there's always a handling for the real problem. If it does, I can't say that enough. I could go on a whole dissertation on that. Let's keep going here. So break down the cost versus the benefits of a new ERP. And it will help you to see why we're doing this. It'll also help that when you're in the middle of the implementation and it's hard, so many stories I could say that you kind of can go back in your mind and say, yeah, that's why we're doing this. Okay, fine. You definitely need to gather requirements, right? Remember, get high level needs first for sure in the implementation, get your requirements. And then really look at what that ERP mitigation or migration is going to look like. Or you could end up with the wrong solution. Don't do that. There's no reason to do that. There's great solutions out there. You just don't have to do that. And then don't upgrade unless you absolutely have to, and that you will be successful with it. I really mean that. So reach out. We're here to help anytime. And not just on the business case. We also have some upcoming continuing professional education here on cybersecurity risks. Get ready to be scared. It's around Halloween. It's things that could freak you out, but it's good to understand that. And I understand James McQuiggan from Know Before even might be masquerading in costume as some other people during this call. So that should be super interesting, especially around bad actors and things like that. So I want to thank you for your time here. If we go to our last slide, Will, feel free to reach out anytime. That's my cell phone number. Give me a call, send a text, email. I think we have Julia's email also in the chat for CPE. Make sure that you respond for that. So do we have any questions? Great. Okay, here's one right now. Let's see. Okay, so oh man, come on. Well, that sounds funny. I'm doing my political impressions there. Oh man, are there any ERP systems that you do not recommend implementing or that you do not work with? Ooh, baby. Well, we are independent and objective, but there are some that I would say, we're weary of everybody, right? We have to be. That's why we get paid to do what we do. But I'm not going to tell you specific names, but the answer is actually yes. There actually are. Now, I will tell you the key factors that we use to decide that, right? Is the client going to be successful with the app or not? That's the one criteria. And then how we measure and gauge and predict that success is based on a couple factors. Is the vendor investing in their solution for the long term or not? And if they're not, we're not doing it. Like I can think of one vendor in particular in one micro vertical industry that's bought a whole bunch of stuff, and we're still trying to figure out what their long-term strategy is going to be. And we're watching it very closely. And they may pull it off, they may not, but at least the PE is going to make the money on the next liquidity event. But what about our customer who, goes to that app and then something happens, right? When they purchase, somebody else buys it and then kills it to put them on some other solution. So we look a lot at viability, R&D investment. We look at the executive team, is it stable or not? I mean, we look at the owners and what's their strategy behind these applications, right? So that's one of the major criteria we use. And then another one, I think to this point, is implementation partners that we work with. We're pretty selective with who we work with because we want partners that are going to show up. They know the industry. They're high quality. If there's a problem, we know they're going to help us through it and they're going to fix it. So maybe one other thing I can sort of sprinkle out there is, we will not regardless of how much the salespeople are selling to our clients, we will not put our clients on too large of an ERP. That goes bad for everybody. The software vendor gets terrible reviews. The implementation partners don't get paid. We get yelled at. It's bad for everybody, much less the client. The person who selected gets fired. Like nobody wants that, right? So we're often looking at right sizing the applications for our clients, right? Sometimes we got to go all the way to the top. That's the right answer. Fine. But when we don't have to go all the way to the top and it's not the right fit and it's too much software for the client to consume, we're going to go down towards more of a mid-tier solution. So, we're really selective with the software vendors that that we recommend and we work with our clients because we want the ones that work and aren't going to kill them. So I'll just say that. Are there any other questions that came through? Okay, good. All right. Well, I think Rebecca, we've got, I think, all the CPE stuff that we need from everybody. I appreciate everybody listening in here too. Again, reach out anytime if you need something. If you want to debate which applications are best or not, we can talk about that. I can tell you that all of them are good for certain instances. So even if you have a top 10 list for 2025, I would say, oh, really? My business requirements are different than the ones that you built a list on. Those are a lot of marketing spiel. We're more about the practical stuff, as Grok will tell you. All the AI models will tell you. ERP Advisors Group's here to get you through the trenches of these real problems. And we appreciate you listening in. Hopefully, you know more about ERP now than you did before, and that you will be even more successful with your project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Again, thank you for a lot of great information. Sean summarized a lot of things. We have another event coming up, and that is on our website. But just to add, if you would like a copy of the deck for today, please feel free to reach out to either myself or either Julia. And again, that is Julia.Clore at erpadvisorsgroup.com, and that is in the chat. And thank you again for all of your participation. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large size businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equate to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. Thank you again for joining us.